Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is Friday, March 10th, YC 125, and this is the Eve Universe Show. Amarr and Gallente diplomats hail progress on mutual astropolitical understanding. Pashani Genesis. The Amarr Empire's royal heir Esria Corazor and the Gallente Federation's counselor Wayaka Kiara has issued a joint progress report from diplomatic talks between the two major empires at the ACN station in the Pashani system. Lady Corazor and Counselor Kiara both expressed considerable optimism as to the progress of the talks and the possibility of achieving mutual astropolitical understanding, as the joint communique put it. Talks between the Empire and Federation diplomats have been underway for several days in response to a major reapproachment between the Caldari State and Minmatar Republic. Empress Katniss I and President Selis Agard have both said that they have been keen to come to a swift agreement on a new policy of mutual non-intervention in their respective spheres of influence. It is widely predicted that the Empire and Federation will cease all militia war zone hostilities between their respective forces should the State and Republic conclude a treaty of non-aggression, as now seems all but a foregone conclusion to most observers. Caldari and Minmatar diplomat delegations have been exchanged in visits to the respective homes worlds as a final treaty details are negotiated ahead of formal signing ceremonies. Just to go over this a little bit, this is pretty juicy, right? This is the last lock-in piece of what we already know, which is that with the change that's coming, the alliances between the Minmatar and the Gallente and the Amarr and Caldari are going to break. This does not mean that it's a four-way war. This simply means it is two wars, 1v1, and now both Caldari and Gallente will view both Minmatar and Amarr as neutral and will not fall under the rules of faction warfare. Minmatar will not be able to flex in Gallente space. This means that the Gallente can now return to Amarr, although they can't get to Jita still. In fact, that means that the Gallente are going to be the only group that is locked out of Jita voluntarily, so join hardcore mode, join the Gallente. Domestic reactions differ as Federation and Empire public absorb news. Intaki, placid. Domestic critics of President Selis Agard has been swift to condemn what they see as, quote, a complete abdication of our responsibilities to interstellar civilization beyond our borders, end quote. As Senator Suvio Belleron of Intaki Prime put it during a press release in the city of Lenoia, the Federation public appears somewhat startled by the pace of diplomatic developments, though Snap opinion polling indicates a guarded welcome for the prospect of improved relations with the Amarr Empire. Pro-Agard Senator Farron Shu, visiting the Federation Navy installation in Placid Region, responded by saying, quote, Suvio Belleron always wants to intervene in someone else's business. No affair is too small or too great. The proceedings in the New Rhines City Council, or how the Yinmei organized Chandeli, the military affairs of the Amarr Empire, perhaps even the expedition to the outer regions. But woe betide anyone interfering with the precious Intaki system if Suvio Belleron isn't in position to take credit somehow. End quote. In the Amarr Empire, comment around the royal court and from major holders' houses more generally has been lauded of the new policy. Military hardliners and mercantile houses alike have had many of their recent concerns assuaged by the prospect of improved strategic and trade dividends. Quote, the general feeling amongst the, shall we say, more worldly Amarr nobles seems to be that improved trade opportunities for the Federation and the potential to isolate the Republic strategically is worth sacrificing a military alliance that many have come to see as less valuable, end quote, said Professor Isidore Calcutta of Kali University's Department of Contemporary Amarr Studies. Woo! That one's a good one, huh? That one's also spicy. These are spicy. However, there is some interesting stuff in here. So this is probably the longest. Suvio Belleron and Farron Shu have been having this back and forth for literally over a decade at this point. But this is by far the longest and most, jutting comment about it. You know, the Yinmei Chandeli thing was specifically where Suvio Belleron was the event that caused Suvio Belleron. Well, New Ren's City Council was the guy who was executed, which caused Suvio Belleron to present the first anti-capital punishment bill. And then it was the Chandeli situation that led him to present the second anti-capital punishment bill. So she's literally calling out their previous instances where they have, come to verbal blows. I think that this is pretty interesting, but a relatively simple answer, right? It does lead me to wonder, is this happening because CCP decided that it was kind of too hard to lock somebody out of all of HiSec, so letting people, or like half of HiSec, I should say, and like AWOXing. There's a lot of little tiny issues that come up because of the whole militia being allied thing that goes away if the militias aren't allied anymore. Is that why they're doing it? Or is this a system to allow for dynamic battles alliances so that way perhaps there could be further realignment of sides? Because in a war, political alliances do not remain static, right? So that could be cool. News in brief. Minmatar Republic Prime Minister Tobias Ifrit attends reception at CEP Spire in Landfall City, New Caldari Prime. Caldari diplomat delegation to Matar, led by Hasiota CEO Athonin Osman, arrives with Republic Fleet Honor Guard. Caldari Navy strongholds and Anamon system receives fresh squadron of capital ships and escorts. Gurissa's pirates raid on Caldari supply base and syndicate, foiled by Antaki Space Police reinforcements. Heavy militia fighting in Aga as 24th Imperial Crusade seeks to break through the Hematar region. So, sorry, let me take a step back. These first two are a continuation of the last one, where now the Minmatar and the Caldari have come to an agreement, and they've sent diplomats from both sides to each other's home planets to finalize things. The Caldari Navy strongholds in Anamon system receives fresh squadrons of capital ships and escorts. That is involving the buildup in Anamon for the event coming up, and Anamon is their new headquarters. Gurissa's pirates raid on Caldari supplied base and syndicate, foiled by Intaki Space Police reinforcements, is interesting because, like, it's one thing to know that the Intaki syndicate is allowing the Caldari state to take sovereignty within that area. It's another to know that the Intaki Space Police is actively defending the Caldari systems from these Gurissa's raids that started in the last event, or in the last New Eden News. Heavy militia fighting in Aga. That one, I mean, like, obviously Aga has been huge recently. Turner system remains under Amarr control as struggle with Minmatar over Yigiti constellation continues. More of the faction warfare stuff from the Amarr Minmatar side. Federal evacuations from Ugalis as Caldari State Protectorate forces sweep through Pegalar constellation. Yeah, that, as I've said for a couple of weeks, or at least a week now, that whole pocket is collapsing. And unfortunately, that means Ugalis will either fall or have already fallen, but will likely fall before this event starts, which really sucks. I'm upset by that. Caldari State orders Concord and Edencom to cease war zone operations, quote, related to technology acquisition and suppression. So Caldari is mad at Concord and Edencom's warzone operations related to technology acquisition and suppression. That's a clear echo of the whole spying row, right? Like, basically Concord and Edencom has been caught as being used by the Amarr in order to spy through their agencies on the Caldari state and their production of the the novel transportation technology. Concord anti-war clone and counter AI units carry out demolition and total purge actions ahead of fall of Ugalis. See? This is what we're talking about. They're going to burn the evidence. God bless it. All right. Basically, I have a video called the Ugali situation, and we're obviously going to have to come back to it because this is terrible as far as like us actually trying to figure any of this out. So Concord has a anti-war clone and counter the counter AI unit called Derail that was brought in there a little while ago. There seems to be something like an ancient artifact in AI that was awoken there. And the idea that and they did a bunch of arrests, and there's been a lot of stuff going on, and we've been looking forward to we need to know more about it. But if they're going to purge all of their stuff in ahead of the fall of Ugalis, man, that sucks. Renegade PMCs involved in smuggling vast quantities of quantum entangled 4 helium out of Placid War Zone. Out of Placid War Zone? That's interesting. So quantum entangled 4 helium is the kind of thing, that is what our fluid routers are based off of. So let's talk about some of the implications of that. A renegade paramilitary corporation smuggling vast quantities of quantum entangled 4 helium could potentially be arming a new clone soldier army if you're going to come out with a new shooter, which also leads to this whole anti-war clone and anti-AI division. And so these two things could be related. The PMC, the paramilitary corporations, could be getting all of this 4 helium. Okay, let's take a step back then. When liquid helium-4 is cooled to below 2.17 Kelvin, it becomes a superfluid with properties that are very unlike those of an ordinary liquid. For example, if superfluid helium-4 is kept in an open vessel, a thin film will climb on the sides of the vessel and overflow. In this state and situation, it is called a Nolen film, blah, 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 blah. This strange behavior... in this state and situation is called Nolen film. This strange behavior is a result of the Cassius-Capelleron reaction and cannot be explained by the current model of classical mechanics nor by nuclear electrical models. It can only be understood as a quantum mechanical phenomena. The total spin of helium-4 nucleus is an integer 0, and therefore it is a boson, blah, 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 blah. What this could mean is that when you have a bunch of helium-4 and you supercool it, it becomes a liquid that all of it becomes like at a very base state. And once it gets into a base state, it actually, like, each one of them will hold the other ones down. So they actually remain, like, totally in sync with each other. And this is a form of quantum entanglement. So if you get some of this helium isotope 4 and you supercool it, and then you split the droplet, and you put one droplet in one box and one droplet in another box, then if you do something to one droplet, it will cause spooky action at a distance on the other droplet. There's more information about this on the Universe portal on FTL communication. I'm pretty sure I did a video on it too. So the point is that QE4 helium is what is used by the fluid router. Each Stargate has QE4 helium in it that's quantumly entangled with each other Stargate that it is connected to. So it can send messages back and forth instantaneously to the other Stargate. And since each Stargate, and also to the Stargates within the same system, you, with your ship, you're actually not communicating to local by communicating with the Stargate itself. Because you can't communicate with the Stargate. In order to be able to communicate with the Stargate, that Stargate would have to have helium isotope 4 from the same droplet as you. You know, the empires don't trust each other. So rather than having a centralized network, it's actually a distributed network with redundancies where basically, like I said, each gate talks to each other gate and can transmit information via a fluid router. And so you send your message back to your home system. This is actually why you set a home system, because that's actually the location that your QEH4 or QE4 helium is from. That's the home station that your ship communicates with, most likely than not. So then you communicate with your home node, and then your home node sends through the fluid router all the way to your local node, that packet of information. And all of that consumes QE4 helium. This is why we pay Plex, actually. If we go back in game and we see Plex, does it say it here? No, it doesn't say it here anymore. Darn it. We had this problem last time too. So a Plex is actually a chip that is a certain quantity of QE4 helium that is designed to compensate for the additional strain of the capsuleer on the system, which is why alpha clones, so they use drifter tech. So they have a much more efficient way of transmitting information. So they've been able to allow you to do that for free. However, it uses a much simpler process, and therefore many of the advanced channels are locked out, which is why alpha clones are the way they are. Yeah, there's a lot of science in Eve, man. I've actually been meaning to do a whole series about it, because there is a lot of good science in Eve, or at least good adjacent, especially when it comes to the Triglavians. I've learned more about the Triglavians by watching like Kyrgyzstan and, you know, whatnot than by like, you know, in-game stuff. Anyway, whatever. Let's go back to what we were doing. So the other thing that this could do, by the way, guys, do you know what happens when a location runs out of 4 helium? QE4 helium? Blackout. Be careful. It could get dark out there. Clashes in Lenoe. I hate this city's name, by the way. Lenoika City on Yantey Prime as Federal Marines breach textile quarters barricades in pursuit of terrorists. This is a kind of growing crisis occurring in Yantey, where now Lenoika is the kind of the stronghold of the resistance of the Yantey. Senator Suvio Belleron is from there, and they've shown that they are unhappy with these people, with the Federal Marines coming in. And there has been rumors of the Inibra cult and other terrorists within Gallente or on Yantey Prime. So this is probably going to get uglier before it gets better. Kenta Yavat Spaceport military storage yards shelled by smart mortar. Federal Marines APC reported destroyed. Federal Marines APC reported destroyed. That's unfortunate. So Kanata Yavat Spaceport is one of their most well-known spaceports, if I remember correctly. This is likely the spaceport that just got shelled. Okay? And that is one of those terrorist actions by those, groups, most likely than not. Pro-Federation Idama assassinated by sniper fire while working on rice fields in Lenoika Coast Monastery. There we go. That's the first one. The Adamas are the religious leaders of the Yantey. And so, I mean, we just got told that the Inibra cult are operating on Yantey Prime. The Inibra cult are known assassins. This is probably not great that the resistances are now bombing spaceports and assassinating religious leaders that are pro-Federation. Visiting Senate delegation and Yantey Assembly Executive Council issued joint call for calm amidst Yantey Prime violence. Sure, that'll work. Extreme energy discharges detected in an atmosphere of Shabura 5 by civilian ships fleeing Sanchez Nation incursion. Interesting. I feel like this is like, I wonder if this is an advancement of technology by Sancha, because it sounds like that description. At first, I was thinking that this was going to be the Svarog, right? But we also, I think that the Svarog has corrupted some of the Sancha, so this tracks. Blood Raider Covenant bases in Iridia attacked by Anakanobo Brigade and Royal Ulan's mercenaries. I don't even know how to interpret that. So that's Caldari and Amarr mercenaries striking against the Blood Raiders. Anakanobo Brigade, extremely sinister name linked to an organized crime clan from Caldari Prime. The Anakanobo Brigade is regarded... Yeah. So this is... Yeah, certainly they are absolutely... Oh no. This is why we do this. What happened here? How is the Anakanobo Brigade? Here we go. Breaking report. Sources in Caldari State claim that that Khanid Royal Commodore Arez Namara has met with representatives of the Intara Direct Action and Anakanobo Brigade PMCs with a view of securing their services for counter-terrorist operations, which is how they ended up on Caldari Prime, or on Yantey Prime, rather. So, hold on. Forums. If I go to my... I made a post a while ago. Sorry, I've already assembled the information once, so here we go. So the LDPS was accused of using area-to-mile munitions. Yeah, we talked about this before, but hold on. How involved were the paramilitary groups in these? Anakanobo Brigade reportedly engages in Yantey militia and Kondola Revenor troops in support of LDPS. So yeah, Anakanobo Brigade was used by the Khanid to attack Yantey by proxy, and was how the Lidai came in and stole the Yantey tech to build the transcranial nanocontrollers. I have videos for all these things. I have a lore playlist. It's a long story at this point. We'll do... Actually, I think the lore speedrun might cover a lot of this stuff. And Angel Cartel carries out lightning raid on Faspera 5 acrological survey base, evading Amatar fleet response. Also, hold on. Royal Ulan mercenaries. Let's look those up. I assumed that they were Amarr, but now it's worth looking into. Archaeological. Oh, is it archaeological? Are you serious? Look, reading it out loud helps my dyslexia most of the time. Oh, the Royal Ulans. Isn't this one of the factions that got a new logo? Yep, member of Amarr. Who's this guy? The Khanid. It is Khanid. So it's Khanid working with Anakanobo Brigade again against the Blood Raiders. Well, so basically that is the world news or the New Eden news for the day on, what is it? What day is it today? It is March 10th, YC 125. Definitely a lot to keep an eye on. It looks like it's going to be very, 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 very exciting very soon. So it's worth keeping an eye out there and on for further updates. And of course, you'll be able to catch them on my show when they come out. So, but on that note, that is it for this particular video. If you're watching this as a recording, if you're live, hang out. But otherwise, I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. And I really want to thank, you know, my sponsors. My Patreon actually has been really blowing up recently, and I'm just very, very thankful of that. But I hope I get them all. But it's my top tier patrons, or my biggest supporters, are Abyssus, Aikawarazu Chan, Arydanika the Queen, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Bomber's Bar, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Golden Age Story, J. Kuhn, LM1, Lumi, Malak Starfire, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Nolen with No Eyes, Syliana Vel'ash, Tgen Tgen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yantey Lepouf, and Zaul Nex, as well as my immortal tier supporters, Ebolete, May, Merc Utan, and Rid. Thank you all so much. Please make sure to like and comment on the video and send it around and let us know, what do you think all of this is leading towards? But without further ado, I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, I'll see you in space.